You are listening to Swamp Things, a podcast about University of Florida sports with the Orlando Sentinel's Edgar Thompson and the AP's Mark Long. Edgar and Mark discuss the goings-on with the Gators in Gainesville, where each is a longtime resident who has seen championship success, coaching turmoil, and plenty of drama on and off the field.
Greetings and welcome to Swamp Things, a podcast about the Florida Gators. It's November 17th, 2025. I'm Edgar Thompson of the Orlando Sentinel, joined by Mark Long of the Associated Press here in Gainesville, Florida. Well, Mark, Lane Kiffin week went a little better than expected, at least from my perspective. But, ended with another Florida loss, third straight for the Gators, away from the Swamp. So that's not surprising. 19 straight now against ranked teams on the wrong side for the Gators. Kiffin's first win against the Gators going back to Tennessee 2009, also lost 2020, 2024 to the Gators. So he got off the snide there. But really, Mark, the game within the game is all anyone cared about, right? The Lane Kiffin sweepstakes is making the Mega Millions $980 million payday. You know, he's not getting that, but he's stirring up as much drama as that whole thing. I tell you, and it picked up some steam. I keep saying it, the Lane train picking up steam. I mean, how many times am I going to say that when I write it before it's all over? Probably one too many already. But On3 is reporting that Ole Miss is pushing for a decision, okay, which is something that I was hearing last week, even when I was in Oxford, that they're pushing, they want a decision. Well, Lane Kiffin is weighing his options clearly, because On3 reported just a minute ago, in fact, that his family is visited Gainesville on Sunday and is visiting Baton Rouge, home to LSU, today. Picked a good day to come to Gainesville. I got back yesterday. It was glorious here in our hometown, and which I think shows a lot better than Baton Rouge personally, but don't know that that's going to be the whole basis for your decision. But what do you make of all of it? I mean, this thing really is gaining a lot of momentum as we head into a bye week for, Lane Kiffin and his Rebels.
Yeah, you'd like to know maybe how much of it is smoke and how much of it is reality. Like, I do think there could be some posturing here in terms of, is LSU a legitimate viable candidate? Is Gainesville a legitimate viable candidate? I assume as much, but I don't know. We don't know. Nobody knows. But it's interesting to me that it's not just one visit, that it's both. But like, that's what you would want to do if you're Lane Kiffin, is to use the threat of LSU versus against Florida, and use the threat of Florida against LSU, use the threat of Ole Miss against both of them, and raise the bidding war, right? I think even if you've made up your mind, that's probably the smart thing to do here for all parties involved, and see who wants to raise the ante and offer you a little bit bigger piece of pie, not only for an annual salary, but maybe for NIL, rev share you think's pretty much set, but who knows? I mean, there's always a possibility that somebody could offer more than the $15.8 million in rev share to the football program if they really wanted to. So all of it's absolutely intriguing, and I've got my popcorn just kind of waiting for it to figure out what happens. And I am still 100% under the belief that Lane Kiffin is headed to Gainesville and will be Florida's next head coach. I don't have any reason to believe otherwise. But again, as I said to friends and family and anybody who will listen, the reality is I'm talking to people who are biased, who have skin in the game and want Lane in Gainesville. So I acknowledge that. And understand that there are probably people out there who want lane somewhere else or expect lane somewhere else. So you got to take all that right into consideration when you're trying to kind of weed through all this. But clearly, no decision's done, and I think it's the dumbest thing in the world for Ole Miss to try to leverage this guy with the CFP. They're almost assuredly locked into the CFP, the college football playoff, and they've got a good team. They got a good quarterback. They got a chance, as good a chance as probably anybody to win this whole thing if things go their way a little bit. So I just don't know why you would make that threat. Listen, you've enjoyed 6 years with this guy. And if he wants to leave, he's going to leave. There's nothing you can do about it. Forcing him out the door before the Egg Bowl or after the Egg Bowl, before the CFP, whenever it is, just doesn't make any sense. Enjoy it. Stay on the lane train for as long as you can. Ride it into the sunset, potentially, and then hope that maybe he changes his mind. Maybe you win a title and it changes his mind. Who knows? But I would not – this is not the time or the place to be issuing threats or even idle threats, because that's not how you're going to attract the next coach. And again, give me this time frame you need to know so that you don't get left out in the cold. Please, nobody's leaving Ole Miss out in the cold. It's still a good job. I think you could make a case that it's probably as good or better a job than maybe Florida State if it comes open, maybe Auburn that is open, and maybe Virginia Tech that just got filled by James Franklin.
Yeah, well, you said a viable candidate. I mean, this is a viable choice for Lane. I mean, you were saying you're not sure he's a viable candidate. I mean, he's the candidate. He's the only candidate as far as
I meant is he a viable choice? Is he really choosing? Yes. Is he really choosing between LSU and Florida? I don't know.
Well, I don't think he's maybe doing that. I agree that I think he's coming to Florida, but maybe you just need to weigh your options. Look, I've never been in a bidding war, right? So I've never had the ability to leverage, we're talking millions of dollars here. I've never had the ability to leverage, and any money. So I don't live in that world, and that's the world in which he operates. And so it certainly seems that that's what's going on here. But the game itself,
he's gonna do things that maybe he doesn't want to do, that he's being advised to do, because that's better for the bottom line. Even if he doesn't care about the bottom line, I still think he cares about his agent. They have a relationship, a long-standing relationship, and he's going to do some things that his agent asks him to do, whether or not they might be what he wants to do. You listen to the advice of arguably, I don't even know if it's arguably, the top agent on the planet.
Well, definitely in college football space, Jimmy Sexton you're referring to. But yeah, the other aspect too is family. And you just want them to feel comfortable. Go look at both places. See what you think. You have a sophomore in high school, Knox, who's a quarterback, who's going to play a couple of more years of high school ball, and has college aspirations too, though you hear he wants to come to Florida. So anyhow, there's a lot of elements there beyond just, maybe leveraging, but I did find it odd that the family was visiting LSU, to be honest. But
I mean, that would make you think that it is a legitimate choice, and that, and the family's decision is as important to Lane as Lane's decision. Lane might not care. He's going to be in the facility working, morning till night, right? He's going to be head buried in a football facility for 12 to 15 hours a day. It matters probably more to his ex-wife and his kids where they are than it might to him. What matters to him is the football pedigree, and they're both fantastic from a pedigree standpoint. I don't know if they're both equally aligned, but I do think that they're comparable from a pedigree standpoint.
Yeah, some might argue LSU, in fact, is a better job. I can argue that very easily, in fact. But I think, like you say, you want the family comfortable. They're going to be the ones who living in the city, right? I never see Billy Napier out anywhere or didn't. And even now I see his wife out everywhere. We see her all the time. We see her more than we see Billy. I just saw her this morning and talked to her. So yeah, these people like actually live in the city. You even see like wives of these coaches, not just Allie Napier, Megan Mullen or whatever. They never see their husbands hardly. These guys are, like you said, head buried. They're in the film room, they're in the field. And so it is a family decision. It's not just a lane decision. But anyway, on to the game. We're going to curtail this, our breakdown here, because the games are becoming less and less meaningful as it goes. So we're just going to each take one topic and go with it and maybe comment on the other's view. I'm going to start out with the turning point in the game. I think it was pretty obvious, DJ Lagway's interception in the fourth quarter. You're talking a field goal game at that point. They're inside the kick line. They're on the 30 of Ole Miss, 3rd and 5. DJ decides to roll left, makes a cross the body pass, which is kind of an ill-advised throw typically. Certainly guys have pulled that off. Great players. Mahomes can do it. We've seen John Elway live off the across the body throw many years ago. But DJ throws it. It gets tipped, and he throws his first interception of the night. Pretty good night he was having at this point, and probably one of his better games, certainly one of his better ones this season. And it gave Ole Miss the ball, and they took it and took advantage and ended up, winning the game 34-24. But my thing about that throw is Billy Gonzalez, who has seen good quarterback play, right? This guy saw Alex Smith at Utah. He saw Chris Lee. He was with Tim Tebow. He saw Dak Prescott at Mississippi State. Saw Cal Trask become a Heisman finalist. This guy knows what it looks like, right? And after the game, he's like, hey, look, players want to make great plays. It's in their DNA. But in this case, we're inside the kick line. You got to make good decisions. And a crossbody throw in that situation is probably not the ideal play. And it didn't turn out well for DJ or the Gators. And as I said, DJ was having a very good game. He looks healthy finally, Mark, really. And he made a 43-yard throw to TJ Abrams that followed a 10-yard run on 3rd and 9 where he looked fast, right? He just took off. And then he threw a perfect throw to TJ Abrams, 43-yarder. And then a couple series later, or next series, I think, 57-yarder to J. Michael Sturdivant. That was just a beautiful throw to the pylon. It looked like the old DJ. And really, dual threat-wise, I thought DJ looked better as a dual threat than he's looked at Florida ever. So the young man looks like he's getting healthy. Now, that's bodes really well. And I'll say this last point is if I'm Lane Kiffin watching DJ Lagway in person, I'm thinking, I got something there I can work with. I got a kid who can run, willing runner, capable runner, and can really throw some passes that few guys can make with little effort. And if I can get this kid making better decisions, improve those fundamentals somewhat, and get his accuracy, because his accuracy still wasn't great the other night. His numbers, in the end, he missed a lot of throws, but he made some good ones. I'm thinking DJ Lagway probably helped himself in this game with his likely future coach.
Yeah, it's hard to argue that. I think you're absolutely right. I didn't think it was an awful throw by any stretch of the imagination. I thought he actually made a pretty good throw rolling left. My issue was, what are you doing rolling left? He didn't need to. The pocket held up. Jaden Boss stepped up and helped with, I think it was the left guard who got beat a little bit, but not awful. I mean, the guy didn't get steamrolled here. He just stepped in and helped the guy who was maybe breaking through there. But DJ jumped out of the pocket way too soon, rolling left. And I just thought it was unnecessary. And it really showed his lack of confidence in the line, or maybe what he's seeing pre-snap read. And the reality is, you got to question what was Ole Miss thinking in the first place. Ole Miss switched to zone in the second half and pretty much totally shut down DJ Lagway and the Florida Gators. It's like, why wouldn't you? This guy struggles against zone coverage. Why wouldn't you play him, whistle to whistle in zone? They played him in man, paid the price early, switched to zone at halftime, and DJ went back to his looking a little more lost than usual self.
Yeah, I'll do the thumbs up too, and then we'll give you a couple. I just think the way the Gators kind of bounced back from 38-7 at Kentucky on the road, where they've struggled for going back to Dan Mullins last year, again, 19 in a row now against ranked teams. They were right there, the Gators. They've been right there in a number of these games, really, if not for 5 interceptions at LSU or, deciding not to kick the field goal at Miami, I think, when it was the 13-7 game. You don't know what's going to happen there. Beck had just thrown a pick. He might have thrown another. We've seen Carson Beck throw picks. So they've been in games on the road away from the swamp. Georgia, A&M even, they were in that game until they got kind of overwhelmed in the second half. This game, they were right there. So, but after losing 38-7 at Kentucky, I'm thinking they're not going to be right there again. Lane Kiffin's going to run circles around this team. And I'll say this, Lane Kiffin sure makes it look easy. That offense just rolls. It's a well-oiled machine. It could have scored a lot more points. 2 trips inside the 5 with nothing. Settled for a field goal and another trip inside the 10 maybe. That they should have gotten a penalty maybe called and gotten that ball and maybe gotten in the end zone. But Ole Miss could have scored a lot more points. I don't know that Florida could have scored a lot more points in this game. But to the Gators' credit, put up a fight. Billy Gonzalez has this team competing, and 2 home games against rivals, Tennessee and Florida State. I expect him to keep doing it. Thumbs down, Mark.
Yeah, I'm going to go with just another lackluster second half, really specifically the fourth quarter. Florida's been outscored in the second half in 9 consecutive games and failed to score a point in the fourth quarter in 6 of those 9. It's just a stunning streak of debacleness, whatever you want to call it there. I'll just make up a word. But outscored 14-0 in the second half of the last 2 games. They've been outscored 115-47 in the second half of their 9 FBS games this season. It's coaching. You can tell me all day that is talent. I don't believe it for a minute. I think that is coaching. That is a pathetic staff that is not making the right changes at halftime, that is not adjusting to what their opponent is doing, what the opposing staff is doing, and they're just getting manhandled. They're just getting blown off the ball, whatever you want to call it. That, yes, some of this stuff is self-induced mistakes in the second half, but more often than not, I think you would find out if you looked at the first downs and the yardage that they are just getting totally outplayed on both sides of the ball in the second half. And I'm done. I'm done watching it. I don't want to watch it anymore, Edgar. I want to get a coach in here. I know. I want to get a coach in here who knows what he's doing, makes halftime adjustments, and does what Nick Saban did, and Kirby Smart, and Lane Kiffin, and some of the better coaches in the league where, if it's close, you're going to lose in the second half because you're going to get out everything.
Well, I'm not ready to put Lane Kiffin in there. He needs to show a little bit of that himself. But he's got a well-oiled machine, as I called it. That offense just clicks. Trinidad Chambliss, it looked like he was making some seriously high-risk throws. I mean, he threw a pick that was bad, but he made some throws, Mark, where you're thinking Florida's like going to pick it off a few times. No, it's going right to where it needed to go, right in the receiver's hands. And the way he would have guys sitting down in the zone, right spot, balls coming out right to him, the way he dialed up run plays for Kewan Lacey. I mean, what did he run for? 221?
Yeah.
That was a quiet 221 too. Usually when you're watching a guy run for 221 yards, you're like, my God, look at this guy. Like Herschel Walker or Emmitt Smith or something back in the day when they were running for 220.
224, yeah.
What was it, 224?
30. Here's the most telling part of all of it.
What was it?
31 carries, 224 yards, 3 touchdowns, but not a single lost yard. So he wasn't getting touched in the backfield. He wasn't getting touched behind the line of scrimmage. I mean, that's always, I always look at yards lost, because if you're losing yards, that means you're usually getting hit in the backfield, O-line play. I mean, they had 224 yards, every one of them beyond the line of scrimmage.
I left my box score in the other room. Phil Stanbaught's going to be mad. So what's your second guess?
Yeah, early third quarter, UF punted. So they hadn't stopped Ole Miss in the first half. I think Ole Miss scored on all 4 of its possessions. Touchdown, field goal, interception, touchdown, field goal. So 2 touchdowns, 2 field goals, and then the bad pick that you alluded to earlier. So all of a sudden, you're sitting here, you're struggling to stop Ole Miss, and yet Billy Gonzalez has the ball midfield, 4th and 2. I think they had just picked up 4 yards on a 3rd down run, 4th and 2 from the UF 48. So you're not quite at midfield, but you're right there at midfield. And in a game like this where points are at a premium, he chooses to punt. And it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Billy Gonzalez, you are an interim head coach. You're not getting this job. You're not trying to prove that anything. You take chances. Let these kids play. Do something. Again, Billy Napier would have punted there. I sound like a broken record, because this is what I've done for 3 straight weeks with Billy Gonzalez. Get out of Napier's shadow. Get out of the box that Napier coached in, and be yourself. Do something different. Be aggressive. You have nothing to lose here and everything to gain by stunning Ole Miss, by shocking the world here, by being a player in the CFP. Look, Florida's not going to the CFP, but they had a chance here to be a factor in the CFP and knock out Ole Miss. And you don't do that by playing this thing as close to the vest and absolute by the book and verse as possible. So it was just disappointing, and I second guessed it from the minute I saw it. I just was like, oh, here we go again. A guy's got a chance to dagger this thing, to put the pressure on Ole Miss at home, and just failed to even try to do it. And again, you don't do it, big deal. They got the ball at midfield. I don't know what the punt, how well the punt was, but I know the punt didn't drop them into the inside the 5-yard line or anything like that.
Well, as I said, with little left to play for, the Gators tried to play spoiler, which is what I wrote after the game. But they didn't do it this time for Lane Kiffin, because a year ago he came to the Swamp and lost his CFP bid. This time he was able to pull away and win that one. After calling the staff pathetic and ripping Billy Gonzalez for now the 3rd straight week, why don't you give out a game ball and say something nice about someone?
Yeah, listen, there's some game balls to be had. I mean, Florida played.
All right, well, you're giving one and I'm giving one. Who do you got?
Yeah, I'm going to go with TJ Abrams. 3 catches, 76 yards. You alluded to the 47-yarder. He was targeted 8 times and only caught 3, but I just felt like this guy's open. DJ missed him on a couple. The guy was open. He's got good hands. He looked like he had good body control, good radius, catch radius. I liked everything I saw about him. We got to meet him last week, and I don't know if we talked about this, but the guy's got paws, like just absolute paws. He's our height, 5'10" kind of guy, but he's got these just ginormous hands, and you're like, okay, this is why this guy is going to be a good receiver and gives himself a chance, because he's got long arms and big hands and really can go get the ball. So I like everything about him, and I like the fact that, you're able to find a guy who's, what is he, 6th, 7th on the depth chart? 6'7". You got a guy 6'7" on the depth chart, and making plays late in the season. That's what this is about. That's showing, finding a little bit of some progress, a needle in the haystack, a guy you can build on, a guy you think who's going to be here next year, who might have a chance.
It's called development. Developmental game, as your boy Boom used to say. Yeah, I think I got an inch or 2 on TJ Abrams, but I think he's got about 35 pounds of muscle on him.
At least.
He's an impressive kid, and he came in as an athlete, as they like to list guys that they're not really sure where they're going to put him. And guy's a really good route runner. and is really trending. He's had a couple of drops this year, but he's getting his chances and making most of it. I'm going to give a game ball just because I want to Miles Graham. Look, the guy loved to watch good linebacker play. He has gotten beaten in some coverage and some things, but it might be something he's going to have to, or it is something he's going to have to work on, but I'm sure he will be able to do so. He's 19 still, I believe. So his whole future's ahead of him. He's a great physical, hard-nosed player. Seems just to love, just going mano a mano. I mean, he flattened Lacey on one play out on the perimeter the other night. I mean, it was an impressive tackle. He finished with 9, 2 for a loss, 1 a sack, had a QB hurry, leads the Gators with 60 tackles, has 6 hurries, broken up 4 passes. Again, who needs to get a little bit better at that, but can't demand perfection from a sophomore. And, he's definitely one of the guys that Lane Kiffin is going to be happy to keep around for sure. After the game, I went to Lane Kiffin, and, we'll do a little Billy's banner, but it's going to be, Lane Kiffin banner from my standpoint. And he kind of bobbed and weaved about Florida. Someone asked him about where that was at, and he said, look, it'd be disrespectful to players to even discuss that right now. Today was awesome, etc. He didn't put it to rest at all, which leaves it completely open-ended. I asked him about setting aside the whole Kiffin to Florida thing and how, leaving a fan base that's embraced him so much and wants him there, they're so leaving them in doubt what, how he goes about that and processes that basically, right? And he's like, hey, look, man, these kids, it's what they deal with. They've been dealing with it for weeks now. But he's like, all these young men they have a big game. They're getting hit up about the portal. This has just become such a business. Not only are the coaches mercenaries, for lack of a better word, but the players are even maybe to a larger degree. This is how it works now. And he made that pretty clear in his answers. And he definitely made it pretty clear that he is weighing his decision if he hasn't already kind of made a decision there. Post game, Monday, excuse me. I'm sorry, Mark. Monday, you got something from Billy G?
Yeah, I was just going to get into maybe his talk on Caleb Banks. I thought that was interesting. Caleb Banks, it sounds like he's going to play this week. He was doubtful last week. There was a report that he was going to try to play. Now it's legitimate. They clearly had a plan for Caleb Banks. He wants to play. Billy Gonzalez is trying to get him on the field. It sounds like he wants to go pro, and he knows that it's hard to go pro and really go to the combine and get a Senior Bowl invite if you're not on the field. So he wants to get on the field these last 2 games, see what he's got, show a little bit, and put a little stuff on tape, and then maybe he gets the Senior Bowl invite and gets started with his NFL career. So I think that's cool. They had a real plan. They were going to try to get him 25 reps last week in practice and then get him warmed up for the game, let him go through warm-ups, do all the things except go out there and play, and then do that again this week, take it a step further, and then it sounds like he's going to play these next 2 weeks. Big for Florida's defense, certainly, if he's in shape, if he's got some stamina, if he can play to the level we think he can play, the way he closed out last season. But I don't know, it also could backfire, right? Sometimes you put guys in there who haven't played or in his case, would he play like 20 snaps all year?
He played at LSU and was out of that game pretty quickly.
Right. So if he got 20 snaps, that might be a surprise. It might be on the high end there. So, you're taking a little bit of risk, but that's what Billy Gonzalez's role is as the interim here. He's not trying to make hay. He's trying to keep everybody happy. And this guy wants to try to play. It's just like Tank Hawkins not wanting to play and keep his red shirt. Billy can't push back on that. His job is to try to make everybody happy, not rock the boat. Just try to keep everybody rowing in the right direction. Tank Hawkins wants out. You say that's fine. We'll be fine. Caleb Banks wants back in. That's fine. We'll be fine. You try to make it happen, and you try to accommodate everybody.
Well, TJ Abrams is happy Tank Hawkins opted out because he played better than Tank Hawkins ever has at Florida in one game. I mean, he caught like a touchdown.
No, you're right.
Against Samford, he caught a touchdown. That's all he ever did. So sorry, Tank. I'm not buying that whole opt-out thing. Yeah. So locker room view, we do. I'm going to go to DJ Lagway. This is more courtesy of our intern Leanna Handler, who wrote a really nice piece on DJ after the game. Really captured the scene. Gray Gators beanie pulled down almost to his eyebrows, slumping in his chair, murmuring a bit, monotone, kind of, 1,000-foot stare. DJ's usually more engaged in that. This young man's beaten down, right? Said he wasn't even playing football 6-7 months, so he's happy to be out there. You know what I mean? But when you're not having success, it's tough. And he said this has just been emotionally draining this whole year, all the way back to January. He's been injured all year, as Mark noted months ago about his shoulder and got a bunch of pushback, had the calf, had the sports hernia surgery, just hasn't been right. I think he's looking a lot more right suddenly. I'm interested, honestly, to see how he plays these last two games. If there's anything I'm interested in, it's to see if DJ can kind of build on that the other night and play a complete game, lead the Gators to a win or two here down the stretch. And because he's exciting to watch, man, when he's playing well and connecting on 57-yard and 43-yarders and running for here and there, fun player to watch. And I hope that player sticks around if that's who is going to be, the Gators are going to get next season. What was today? Did you get anything from the players today? Talking about what'd you get?
Yeah, I didn't get a whole lot. Talking about the rivalry, I thought Gums was pretty good about it. He's like, I've been around long enough to know that there's some hate here with Florida and Tennessee. You don't have to be around very long to figure that out and to know what Florida State is. So the players know that these two games this is it for
Florida,
them.
Tennessee this week.
Yeah, Florida, Tennessee, and then Florida State next week. But yeah, I didn't get a whole lot. You can just tell that you can sense that these guys are pretty ready for the season to end. Like I think everybody is, right? Ready for the next chapter, ready for it to end. So they're playing out the string a little bit, but there's stuff to be played for, right? When you got rivalry games, when you're trying to defend home field, all of those, that stuff matters. Next week against Florida State will be senior night, right? Try to send them off with a victory. So there's still a lot to play for. They haven't lost to Tennessee at home since 2003, right? 22 years, 10 straight, Florida has won. So there's absolutely things to play for. As I told you, and I'll say it here, and we're both going to write it, Lane Kiffin's going to be watching this game. Unless he chooses LSU in the cover of darkness between now and Saturday, my guess is he will have the TV on Saturday night watching Florida, Tennessee, maybe even taking notes. And these players got to know that. I don't know if they do know that. I would hope somebody smart in that locker room shares that with them and says, hey, don't kid yourself. This guy's got a bye week. He's watching all of us and taking notes as to who he wants and who he doesn't want moving forward.
And Aaron Childs, the sophomore linebacker, said, we're willing to make it personal, it being a rivalry game. And that's what you want. You want these guys, because yes, I mean, they're playing out the string, but dude, they've said it. They get 12 Saturdays. That's all you get. These guys love to play football. They train. Look, I used to play Thanksgiving Day football games. I'm sure you have. Tackle football games. I would get up for that game. I'd go out there and run people over. I remember my sports center in Albuquerque one time, I'm wearing my Mike Singletary jersey. I was flattening people. He came and said, you're a maniac. I mean, you love to play. You love to compete. These guys are kids who are excellent at this sport, like in a way we never were. And they want to go out and play a football game. And it's going to be a Saturday night in the swamp. and they've lost 3 in a row. I'm not saying that they're as motivated as they'd be if they were 10-1 Ole Miss and there was really stakes here, but competition is competition, and Billy emphasizes that himself every week, that if you're a competitor, you're going to go out and play. So yeah, they're just probably tired of talking about what it all means and the season and the uncertainty of the head coach, right? I mean, that's the stuff they're just tired of talking about. And to their credit, they're even coming out and doing it and thanking us when they're finished, like for coming in, and we thank them, they thank us. And I'll say this for Billy Napier, I said it the other day, he brought in a pretty good group of young men. The ones we talked to, at least, are all respectful, polite, and engaged. And you got to give them credit when you're 3-7, right? It's pretty tough. What's your final thought here?
Well, I've seen Ole Miss play a couple times this year, but I mean, I really watched this one whistle to whistle, right? First snap to the last snap. And what I love about Lane Kiffin's offense is that he makes you defend every blade of grass on the field, from sideline to sideline, front, line of scrimmage to the end zone. He makes you defend it all. And it's so different than what we've watched for 4 years under Billy Napier, where everything's tight in the box, 2 tight ends, somebody moving in motion from one end to the other. And it's, very rarely is anything outside the numbers, the hash marks. And then you watch Lane, and he's got receivers lined up, 6 inches from the out of bounds marker. I mean, that's out of bounds line. I mean, that's how wide, and it creates rush lanes. It creates quick throws. It just does so much, opens up things for your quarterback to run these, RPOs. And it's like, this is how football is made to be played. I played football my whole life growing up, and it was always try to get to the edge and then get up the field, right? The field is wide for a reason. Billy Napier always played it like it was half the size that it really was. And I never could understand it. And I watch Lane, and this is what I'm like, this is how this is what it's supposed to look like. This is how it's supposed to be. You're supposed to have different depths on different routes. You're supposed to have concepts, and you're playing guys, putting guys in binds, right? Having a conflict, finding a conflict defender and making him choose. And the quarterback watches him, he chooses, and you throw it to the other guy. I mean, it's so beautiful in so many ways. And it's been so lacking in Gainesville for a long time. And even
Dan Mullen.
I was going to say, it was great under Mullen.
Dan Mullen and them brought the spread to college football. So it hadn't been that long.
No, but when you look at it from since Urban, when you're talking about Muschamp, and you're talking about
there were like 2-3 years of it with Mullen, and not even
McElwain.
2020 was the 1 year,
right? And then McElwain, it wasn't very good under McElwain, quarterback issues, and then Clarabelle never panned out.
Their offenses were putrid.
And now what we've watched for 4 years in Billy. So you watch a Lane Kiffin offense, and you just appreciate this is what it's supposed to look like, what it can look like, and what it should look like.
And what it did look like, and you fired the guy who was doing that. So I keep going back to that.
Well,
half $1 billion. It was
falling apart. It was falling apart.
Well, you got a boss, and he could have gone and had a conversation, in my opinion. My final thought is, I walked through the Grove and the tailgating, kind of iconic tailgating setup they have there at Ole Miss, and in my opinion, lived up to expectations. It's beautiful. It's in the trees, kind of winding around, little berms and things. Very cool. So I went back there just kind of take the temperature of Ole Miss fans and like, what are you feeling? What are you thinking? So I ran into Scott Carter from FloridaGators.com, and he was leaving it. And I said, oh, yeah, too bad. I'm going back. Yeah, I'll come join you. So we start walking. I'm like, I mean, it's a zoo, right? We're looking for signs of like, what people are, signs. Like there was one, get your own coach. Leanna actually saw that one and took a picture that I put with the story. But I can't. So I'm walking by this one, and it's like Sarah Catherine Sanders' 40th birthday. And I'm like, heck, there's got to be something here. So I walk in and go, where's Sarah Catherine? And she's like, in her southern drawl, I'm right here. This cute little blonde walks up, and she's like, what? And I'm like, hey, so happy birthday. Thanks. And I said, hey, do you want Lane Kiffin to stay as your present, right? And she's like, actually, just blew out my birthday candles and cake on my cake and wished he would stay. Which I'm like, money. And then she's like, oh, hold on. If I tell you, does it not come true? And she goes, maybe I actually wished he was going to go. I thought it was very clever. And she laughed. And then she said, I don't think he's going to leave, and what he's built here and his family, and he can stay 2 more years after we win the national championship. And then he can go and take Knox, his son, and local star quarterback, and he can go with him too. So I thought that was a funny little encounter. And then I came across, some other fans. I mean, long-standing fans. One guy who'd been watching the Rebels since he was 6, and Archie Manning played there, right, in the late 60s. And he's like, look, man, Lane Kiffin could stay and have his name on that stadium, basically be a Manning-like, cult figure there if he chose to stay. But he's worried he's not, like everyone there is. And I kind of feel sorry for these people a little bit, Mark. And you laughed at me because you're like, I'm a softie and all that. But I mean, it's these people have invested in this guy. This community's embraced this guy. And, he's cleaned up his life there. He quit drinking. He's reconnected with his ex-wife, Layla Reeves, and his family's there. His parents moved there to be with him. They both passed away within the last 2 years. Monty Kiffin in the summer of 24, his mother this past summer. One of the guys was like, look, the community really embraced him during that period, and it would be really tough to see him leave. He said the community took him in. Season ticket holder Dan Williams. It's going to be something really if he leaves. It really will. But one guy's like, look, we just want an answer. Is he going to stay? Is he going to go? I know he can't really say it until the season's over with, but I wish he'd come out and just say, hey, I'm staying, which he's not, and going to come out and say, and he's probably not staying. But, when he makes a decision, I kind of conclude as anyone's guess. And I said, perhaps even for the coach. And Williams concluded my story. I'll end on this. I don't really think he's leaving, but you can never tell with Kiffin. He may go to Florida and leave in 3 years too. I'm just saying the grass is always green on the other side for him at some point. It may change back the other way, but that's the way he thinks. So I thought it was pretty interesting telling how Ole Miss fans really, they're hoping against hope really that he stays, and he's going to break their hearts. But that's the way that it's a business. And he's going to come to a place where he's got a better chance to probably win championships than he would there. But he's done something pretty special there, and those people recognize it.
It reminds me of a little bit of Urban. When Urban was at Florida his first few years, I think the Notre Dame job came open, and there was panic set in because he had called Notre Dame his dream job, right? Turns out Ohio State was probably his dream job, but Notre Dame was his dream job. And I think everybody had kind of almost resigned themselves to the fact that this guy's going to dump us for Notre Dame. He didn't do it, but it's like, you got to know your role, right? Lane's not an Ole Miss guy. He's not an Ole Miss grad. His family's not from Oxford. Now, yes, can you have a nice life there? Absolutely. You can say that about hundreds of cities, right? So,
well, when you got 9.5 million, you can say that about hundreds.
But when you're comparing programs, when you're comparing championships, you're comparing Heisman, you're comparing facilities, you're comparing surrounding talent, proximity to talent. Florida is a better job. Booster support, all of that. So in his eyes, there's no comparison. In Ole Miss, I get it. Listen, you hotty toddy, right? You're bleeding the red and blue there, and you think that there's some arrogance, right? Some built-in arrogance, especially now when you're winning and Florida's not. So you think that, hey, this is a better job because this is where his feet are and they're winning. But I think the reality is they've paused all money that's going to capital improvements, including stadium, and they put all that into NIL because Lane understood that, hey, this is where it needs to be. The money needs to be on the players. We got to buy and build a roster. You can't do that at a place like Ole Miss when you're also trying to build a stadium and people are putting money into that. So it's a tough setup. But, I think Ole Miss will learn a lesson from this, I think, is that, know who you are, right? And be happy for whatever time you have with the guy, because he can leave you in a minute. And I'll say the same thing about Lane Kiffin at Florida or
I was going to
whoever.
say, you're saying know who you are. No, know who you're dealing with. You're dealing with a coach who's 14 seasons as a college head coach and been at like 4 stops and, left, flamed out at a few of them. I'm not saying that's where he's at in life now. And that's what I'm saying is you're kind of like, hey, I'm happy here. I've found myself. And I'm not saying he should not leave. I think he is.
I think I'm just saying what you and I had talked about, which is Ole Miss Oxford's that's another region in the SEC, right? It's not. It's like the two Mississippi schools.
SEC outpost. It's always
it's an SEC out. Arkansas. You could say the same thing about Arkansas. You say the same thing about Missouri, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, South Carolina. There are the blue bloods of the SEC, and Ole Miss has never been in there and never will be in there. And I'm not saying Florida is, but I know where Florida is on the pecking order. I know where Florida is on the pecking order, and it's certainly a lot higher than Ole Miss. That's all I'm saying about when I say know who you are. Like be respectful for, if somebody left Florida for Alabama or for Texas or Oklahoma, I think you'd go, okay, I get it. Especially if, they've got family from that area or whatever. I just a lot to play in here, and you're not taking an Ole Miss guy who played at Ole Miss and coached, you're not taking a Mississippi guy out of Ole Miss is kind of my point.
I gotcha. I was just giving you a slice of life from the other side.
Yeah.
That's what we do. All right. So last night, men's basketball played a game in Jacksonville that I blew off because I was on 3 hours of sleep, and Mark covered it for us and did a great job after covering a Jags game. So good on him. Mark's a machine. Number 10, Florida overcomes foul trouble and beats Miami 82-68. We're just going to do a quick 3 things because we have definitely rambled quite a bit here. Why don't we just run down? You got a few, I got a few. You go first, second, third, fourth, serpentine. Go.
Yeah, guard play. I mean, again, Boogie Flan, Xavier Lee combined 3 of 17 from the floor, 0 of 10 from 3-point range, 6 assists, 5 turnovers combined. It's not good enough. They are not good enough collectively. They're not hitting shots. I'm not sure that the shots are going to fall for them. It's gotten to the point where now Todd said after the game last night, he thinks they can be a really good defensive team, and that's who they are. That's going to be the identity. That sounds like me, like a guy who understands that, this is who they are shooting the ball. So you got to kind of tweak it and become a defensive team because you're not going to be an offensive team. Clearly, they've got the bodies down low. Boogie Flan is a very good perimeter defender, but between Boogie and Xavier, the shots aren't falling. Now, I do wonder, is there a point where you go, let me break those 2 guys up, and instead of having them start together in the backcourt, maybe you have Flan and Urban Clavsar in the backcourt, and you have Xavier Lee coming off the bench. And that way you maybe mix it up, and you have a shooter, a little bit better shooter. Clavsar was 4 of 7 from long range last night. Season high, 9 3-pointers. 5 of those came from big guys, Condon and Houck, and then Urban had 4. So I don't know. I think they're going to keep rolling with this the way they got it. Hope the dam breaks and these guys find their footing a little bit better from 3-point range. But I'm almost to the point at even 4 games in that I'd at least start considering something else.
So entering the summer practices, we were talking about who we thought might make a jump. So humble brag, I said Ruben Chignello, but I also said to watch for Amir Jackson as an X factor coming into the football season. So, but Ruben, man, he started out slowly this year. I mean, at 4 points and 5 fouls against Arizona, it was terrible. But against Florida State, he had 10 points, 16 boards, career high. And then last night had 16 points, and 10 boards. 7 to 10, huh?
12 boards.
So 12?
16 and 12.
Okay. According to the Gators box score, I'm looking at them online, but okay, is it 12? Because it looks like it's 10 on their website, but it doesn't matter. Whatever it was, he had 2 consecutive double doubles. Now he really is pretty effective in close using that glass. Like I was telling your boy Nolan, the one day I was out there coaching your team with you, got to use that glass. And Ruben's getting fairly efficient there. I don't expect, 16 and 10 or 12 or whatever every week, or every game. But I think he's definitely improved considerably and getting some confidence. What else do you got?
Alex Condon, I thought he really bounced back. He struggled, for the most part of the first 3 games. He had 2 games where he had 6 turnovers in each game. I believe it was 6 against Arizona and 6 against Florida State. And he really cleaned up his play there, his basically his handle. And he only had 2 turnovers, which again, if that's what you're living with him playing, would he play 23 minutes and having 2 turnovers? You take that all the time. So 19 points on 8 of 12 shooting, 6 rebounds, 7 rebounds. He also fouled out, much like Ruben Chignello. So they still got to work on that a little bit. But I thought that was a great bounce back performance by Alex Condon to have 19 points in 23 minutes.
Yeah, both those guys did foul out, though, as the negative. And the other thing is you're working off a box score that Florida certainly isn't, because they have Condon now for 19 and 10 on the website and Chignello 16 and 10. So the box score from last night is either official or the Florida did something to theirs.
Interesting.
Yeah, no, I mean, because I'm looking at it here online. I'm like, what's going on here? Tommy Houck, what do you got Houck down for? Because what are the stats for him?
17 and 8.
What, 17 and 9 on here, 3 assists.
3 assists,
Look,
yeah.
This guy, he can just get that one shot, man, where he cradles that ball and just takes you and puts that shoulder down a little, dips it. He doesn't run you over. He's not pulling a Shaq, because he couldn't if he wanted. He's pretty lanky, but he can just kind of slip in there, cradle that thing, and just get the layup, draw the contact often, and get a foul. That is your go-to play. If you really need a basket, you got to clear out for Tommy Houck. He's their best player. We know that. But, man, it's impressive to watch him. He did against Florida State when they needed a basket the other night, remember? And you and I were talking. They needed a run. They needed someone to step up. They got both. And he started out with that exact driving play. And then he hit a 3 against Florida State. And last night he hit a 3 a couple possessions later. So he has really done he's done a really good job at just being a, leader, a finisher, a go-to guy. What's your last one, third and last one?
Yeah, I already touched on it a little bit, but again, Todd mentioned about this being a defensive team, and that's who they are. That's kind of what their identity has become or has to become. So, and I do think Boogie Flan's fantastic defender, Thomas Houck's a fantastic defender, Condon and Hadlogden and Chignello all inside, all big-time defenders. So that's maybe, where we're headed, right? This is who they're going to be. They're going to be a little bit less Florida of the last 2 seasons and maybe a little bit more Auburn for the last 2 seasons, is still be able to make plays, but it isn't necessarily going to be shot makers or playmakers and whatnot.
I'm going to go with Isaiah Brown. I'm stealing this from you because Mark kind of noted during the North Florida game that in his little bit of time, he made the most of it. Now, he didn't really fill up the stat line last night in 19 minutes. I mean, according to the online box score, which who knows what he really did. He had 2 points, 2 rebounds, and an assist. But he is carving out a role. He's an Orlando kid. We were wondering what his trajectory was going to be, what kind of role he was going to have. His brother, AJ, who looks like he's probably going to take a red shirt. He had the shoulder issue and surgery, hasn't played yet, right? He hasn't played yet, has he?
No.
I mean, by the way, anyone who's hearing this pinging, this is about the box score that Mark had to get to the bottom of before the end of the podcast. But this is going crazy here.
Sorry, I'll stop.
Mark's final one's pretty funny. Did you still win the game?
Again, Jacksonville's a debacle. I would never play another game over there. It's parking. They screwed up parking. We were supposed to park, so we ended up having to park, a half mile away, walking through a bad part of the neighborhood. It's how you get in. It's just all cluster a little bit. But the real issue was apparently the stats team was awful and stats broadcast. So UF actually did file corrected stats with the NCAA. They didn't get they got around to amending it today at noon. And Denver Parlor, the great SID, had to rewatch the entire game and go through every stat for rebounds, assists, turnovers, whatever. So what you're reading off the stat sheet is actually right. It sounds like Condon did get a double-double, and Ruben had fewer. Ruben only had 10 rebounds instead of 12.
And Halk had 9. Stuff we already talked about. Look, that's crazy Denver had to do that, but I did come well prepared, Phil. I was looking at a box score this time because he was ripping me because I had the names wrong and the score wrong in the Arizona game, which you should get ripped for if you're doing that. But here at Swamp Things, we try to bring you, accuracy. I'll tell you this, what's accurate. Liv McGill's having a monster season, 25.8 points, 7.3 assists, 5.8 rebounds, shooting 49%. But she didn't play at Navy and the Gators lost. 4-0 start. Now they're 4-1. They need Liv McGill. She is doesn't have incredible stature. I mean, she's a little powerhouse for sure. But, she is putting a lot of wear and tear on that body playing. I mean, she played 39 minutes the other night, didn't she? You're going to have to maybe, I don't want to say load manage, but maybe you don't need to wear her out before you really get to the games that matter because she had to sit out. And the last little piece of news, volleyball number 5 seed in the SEC tournament. It's not bad. I mean, it's not Mary Wise who get more than SEC championships than anybody, but before Texas got into the league at least. But, we'll see what they can do. I don't know if you have any thoughts on volleyball because I haven't.
Well, I was going to make a joke of where did Penn State, where's Penn State in the volleyball rankings? I knew you wouldn't know the answer, but that's where Kennedy Martin left Florida. Their big time player. She left Florida over the coaching change, went to Penn State, which was supposedly going to be a Final Four,
a better program all along,
championship contender, and I don't think they had a better season, and so I'm not sure where Penn State is. But it would be something if Florida matched up against Penn State in the NCAA tournament.
Well, I've officially put hide alerts on the basketball group. So listeners will now have to listen to that ping, wondering if I'm playing a freaking slot machine over here. That's what it sounded like. All right. Thanks for the conversation, Mark.
Thanks for having me as always.
Also want to thank our faithful producer, Wesley Alden, for continued efforts. The three of us appreciate everyone who took time from their busy lives, a little more time than usual today, thank you, to join us. Until next time.
Thank you for listening to Swamp Things, your Florida Gators podcast. For more coverage, visit OrlandoSentinel.com and APnews.com. On Twitter, follow Edgar at OS Gators and Mark at AP Mark Long. Please subscribe to this podcast, share it on social media, and review it on iTunes. See you next time.